bringing you today's Let's Talk About It. And today's article is titled, Fed Sounds Concern on Commercial Real Estate Distress. Banks noted vulnerabilities rooted in loans to office landlords. What this is going to go over is kind of the scenario that's happening right now with commercial real estate loans and tied to office properties. So a lot of them we're seeing are going into default, or they're just going kind of into a receivership type of status because they potentially are either going to be in default, or again, like I said, they are in default already. They're trying to go through some sort of forbearance or a workout to avoid actually taking it into foreclosure and having the bank take the property back. So let's see what's going on, and hopefully this information is going to be something that you can think about and see how to move forward with your investments. Let's get started. All right, the first part of the article is the Federal Reserve quietly sounded the alarm about how distress in commercial real estate could rattle the rest of the nation's financial system. So this is potentially a 2008 scenario with commercial property, not residential property. So that's kind of the fuse is being lit with something that might happen in 2023 or 2023 and 2024. As we move through this year and into next year, there's a lot of loans that are having to be either refinanced, or the interest rates are resetting at the higher rates now that the interest rates have doubled from what they were when these loans were originally taken out. Some of them are being forced to refinance, and the property doesn't debt service the loan that or the current loan that it has on the property. So they're having to either put more money into the deal, or just basically kind of walk away from it, hand the keys to the bank, and say, kind of throw their arms up, and because they just can't qualify for a new loan based on the current numbers of what the income and expenses are. Expenses have increased over the last couple of years with inflation. That's kind of pinching everybody also, so they're feeling it in more than one way. The next part of the article, in their discussion of issues related to financial stability, several participants discussed vulnerabilities in the financial system associated with higher interest rates, including the elevated valuations from some categories of assets. So what they're talking about there is that we've got elevated values based on a very previously strong market with low interest rates, a lot of interest in properties being purchased at higher than what they should have been purchased at. Although with commercial property it's different than residential. It's based on the debt service coverage of the property and how much the net operating income can service as far as a debt. But still, with expenses increasing and interest rates doubling, it's very difficult to make these properties pencil out with the new criteria. Further on in the article, it talks about the distress in commercial real estate is centered on the office market. The sector's pandemic-era troubles became more difficult in the past year when the Fed increased interest rates, choking activity in the market and adding pressure to financing. Again, it's talking about the same thing I just spoke about. It's the interest rates increasing and just putting financial stress in the market with the increased inflation, and also increased vacancies in office products from having people work from home and just not being a desirable property type to be purchasing. Also in the article, distress and defaults are becoming a more common part of office landlords' lives as companies scramble to save themselves. Last month, Steve Roth's Vornado Realty Trust wrote down the value of its real estate portfolio by $600 million. The city's second largest office landlord was also recently booted from the S&P 500 and cut its dividend by nearly 30%. So there's one company that is kind of feeling, is really feeling the need to make some changes as far as their valuations go, and kind of get ahead of the curve on what potentially might happen if they don't take any steps forward to get themselves out of the situation. So I think it's going to be happening over quite a few other different companies, different office buildings, different portfolios. We're going to start seeing these changes and these expense reductions quite a bit over across a lot of different property types, not just office buildings. All right. Also in the article, it states that commercial real estate typically accounts for 6% to 30% of a bank's loans, according to the International Monetary Fund. The lender with the most put into the sector is Valley National Bank Corp, which has commercial real estate loans comprising 62% of its total loan portfolio and recently stopped lending for small and mid-sized urban offices. So that lender has a lot of exposure. They're probably going to end up having to be bought up, or if they do have to foreclose on quite a few of those loans, then they're going to have a tough time staying solvent. And again, probably have to be purchased by one of the larger banks, or potentially lose a lot of properties into foreclosure because they just have to turn over the servicing to someone else. So this also could bleed over into some of the other banks that are out there, very similar potentially to 2008, when some of the banks just went and were purchased by some of the smaller banks were purchased by the larger banks, and just had to be taken over because they just couldn't manage the portfolios that they had of loans. And the last part of the article states the Fed plans to conduct stress tests in the spring to evaluate how banks would handle a further slowdown. So they're going to look at potential solutions to the problem, and maybe what has to be done to get ahead of it, and see if they can't keep it from just really becoming a huge problem that permeates the rest of the economy. As weak as the economy typically is right now, with inflation, higher interest rates, maybe a higher unemployment than we're being told, anything that's going to cause a further problem or cause things to get worse, I think is going to just become just a real problem for not just the lenders, but in the commercial market, but everyone in general. So we have to really, really keep an eye on all this stuff and see what's going to happen in the next few months, and how many more of these properties become, start hitting the market with problems, potentially reductions in prices, everything. So it's going to affect us quite a bit, just all over. So just have any questions or comments, feel free to post them below. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel so you can follow and receive any of the new updates that I do on a daily basis. And I look forward to hearing from you. Have a great weekend and enjoy your day. Thanks.